Hey there, algebra class. In this lesson, I want to talk about solving one-step equations for a variable when you're using multiplication or addition. Now you'll notice again, the American flag is right there coming out of the back of my head, and I've got my breathe sign in the background. So just if this is going too fast, just pause the video, take a deep breath, go backwards, do whatever you need to do. If I'm going too slow, just speed me right up. As you recall, when we solve for a variable, the key thing is to find the inverse operation to undo what's happening. So as we've already learned, the inverse operation of addition is subtraction. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. Well, likewise, if a constant is being multiplied with a variable, to undo that, the inverse operation is division. Let me get my picture out of the way. I'll just move it over there. And again, if you see division going on with a variable, the way to undo division is with multiplication. Well, the big thing here is just let's practice it. Let's see what it really looks like. So when it says solve the equation, -8 is equal to j divided by 3. Well, the -8 is constant, it's by itself. J, some variable, I don't know what it is being divided by 3. So in order to undo some value being divided by 3, we need to multiply it by 3. And again, the key rule is, according to the properties of equality, what we do to one side of an equation, we also have to do to the other. So my first step is I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3 and then simplify, and j is equal to -24. As always, you can go back and check these things. So if you plug in -24 for j, and you divide it by 3, in fact, you do get -8. Let's take a look at another problem. In this case, we've got a decimal, but it really works the same way. Some number divided by 6 is equal to 2.8. Well, I'm going to multiply both sides by 6, and 6 times 2.8, now we simplify, is 16.8. And again, if I plug 16.8 back into the original equation, it does indeed 2.8 equals 2.8. Now take a look at this one. It might look a little bit different, it might look a little bit even scary, but you know what? I know you can handle it. -4.8 is equal to -6v. And what that means is take some number v and multiply it by -6. Okay, well, in order to undo -6 times a variable, we need to divide that variable by -6. And again, what we do to one side of the equation, we also have to do to the other side. So -6 divided by -6 is 1. -4.8 divided by -6 is a positive 0.8. Now maybe you can do that in your head. I can't do that in my head, but I can think about it a little bit. But a calculator is fine as well. Now, plug in 0.8 back into the original equation, and you check that, and indeed, -4.8 equals -4.8. So, something from the past here says, remember that dividing is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, right? So when you want to undo a fraction, right, you do the inverse of that. And I'll do an example here in a moment, but again, so in solving equations, you will sometimes find it easier to multiply by a reciprocal instead of dividing. This is often true when an equation contains fractions. So let's take a look at this problem here. 5/6 of w, or 5/6 times a number w, is equal to -20. Well, rather than dividing both sides by 5/6, the reciprocal is 6/5. So I can multiply both sides by 6/5. And again, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This, of course, 6/5 times 5/6 is equal to 1. Sweet. My variable is all by itself. Now, I have to do this math. 6 divided by 5 times -20. Right? And when you simplify that, well, 5 goes into -20 -4 times, and -4 times 6 is -24. And as always, if you have any doubt, check your work. I mean, again, it has to make sense when you plug it back in. So we're going to plug in negative 24 for W, divide by 6, which is 4, times 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 does equal negative 20. Take a look at this one here. 3 over 16, or 3/16, is equal to 1/8 times Z, or 1/8 of Z. So in order to get Z by itself, 1/8 is being multiplied with Z. I need to either divide by 1/8 on both sides, or multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/8. And that's just the whole number, 8. Thank you, very good, 8. So yeah, multiply both sides by 8. 8 times an eighth is 1. 8 divided by 16, oh wait a minute, that's a half, all right? And I still have a 3 in the numerator. So 3/2 is equal to Z. And again, unless it says don't use improper fractions or use mixed numbers, 3 over 2 is equal to Z. I'm okay with that. And again, if you want to check that, plug in 3 over 2 in for Z. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. And indeed, 3/16 does equal 3/16. Let's do one more problem here. And then I just want to remind you some rules about the properties of equality. So Ciro puts a quarter, or 1/4, of the money he earns from mowing lawns into a college education fund. Okay, so the quarter of the money he makes from mowing lawns goes into college fund. Great. This year, Ciro added $285 to his college fund. Write and solve an equation to find out how much money Ciro earned mowing lawns this year. Well, if he put $285 into a fund, 285 is, and the key word whenever you hear is means is equal to. So here's my equation. 1/4 times his earnings equals college fund. 1/4 of the amount he made is equal to how much he put in his college fund. Well, he added $285 to his college fund. And notice here how they said, well, this is really 1/4 of M, which is the same thing as M over 4. If you want to say 1/4 M equals 285, that's just fine with me too. Of course, now that you've got this equation set up, it's really easy to solve. Some variable divided by 4. We need to multiply both sides by 4. And that means Ciro earned $1,140 mowing lawns this past year. This past year. If at any time you need to go back and look at these examples again, they're here for you. I hope just going through it is a great introduction, but the key will be then to practice doing these. And believe me, it just takes practice. You have to practice those operations, those mechanics over and over. And that's what makes you a strong mechanic. The next question is taking that real-life problem and putting it into a mathematical equation, and then it's a matter of moving the parts around. Just as a reminder, there are 8 properties of equality. You should now be quite familiar with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And again, this means if you add to one side, you add to the other side of the equal sign. If you subtract, you subtract. Multiply, multiply, divide, divide. These other 4 are quite relevant. It means 7 equals 7. One thing reflexive equals itself. And this is really important when we get to geometry next year. Symmetric, if A equals B, then B equals A. Transitive, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. You kind of leap over the B's. And substitution, and again, as you know, if you know 2 things are equal, you can substitute one for the other anywhere else you see that expression. Hey, that's the end of my lecture here on one-step equations with multiplication or division. I hope this was helpful, not too dry, not too long, and I look forward to seeing you in class.